The Middle East is ablaze with violence and uncertainty as the conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon escalate, bringing untold suffering and complicating diplomatic efforts. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has entered a dangerous phase, with intensified missile strikes and sharp rhetoric from Moscow. What are the implications of these developments for the global security? And in Washington, controversy surrounds former Congressman Matt Gaetz after his withdrawal as nominee for Attorney General. What does this decision signal for the Republican Party and Trump's administration? Let's begin with the latest developments in Gaza and Lebanon, where the situation is rapidly escalating. Welcome to In Focus, rather. The Washington Post's headline, ICC warrant puts spotlight on Israel and its U.S. defenders, underscores the global divide over accountability. The ICC's arrest warrants for Israeli leaders citing war crimes have sparked sharp reactions, with the U.S. rejecting the decision while European nations signal support. This moment challenges not only Israel's policies, but also the international community's stance on justice and accountability. Tonight, we'll be discussing the latest developments with our guests, Murad Harfoush, an expert in Israeli affairs. Good evening to you, Mr. Harfoush. Mr. Harfoush, can you start? Yes, welcome. Mr. Harfoush, can you start by explaining the scale of destruction caused by the latest Israeli airstrikes in Gaza?
For sure, the Israeli occupation has been practicing genocide in Gaza and destroying all forms of life in Gaza. There is a direct targeting of the infrastructure in Gaza Strip, and there is a total destruction of the homes and hospitals and all the health centers as well in Gaza. There has been a targeting for 45 days now to the north of Gaza, a total destruction of homes, areas, and there is a genocide carried out by Israel in Gaza. What Gaza is witnessing since the beginning of the aggressive war on the Palestinian people is, till this moment, a continuous bombardment by the Israelis and targeting the civilians in Gaza and targeting the homes and the shelter places where the people are. Every day there is at least 100 people killed in Gaza because of the continuous bombardment carried out by the occupation Israeli army. And every day there is at least 300 wounded, in addition to the full destruction of the infrastructure of the Gaza Strip, as well as the homes and the places that people take as shelter against the continuous bombardment that the Air Force of Israel is doing, in addition to the Israeli tanks and the Israeli guns used to target the civilians in Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Now, amid all this escalation, how do you interpret the ICC's recent arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant?
There is no doubt that this is a qualitative leap regarding the nature of the conflict between the Palestinians and Israel. And this decision by the court is categorizing the leaders of Israel as war criminals committing crimes against the Palestinian people and crimes against humanity. Therefore, this memo by the ICC, though it is late, it came late and it came after a lot of pressures on the judges of the International Criminal Court. But after all of this, today, yesterday, we have this warrant for the arrest of Netanyahu and Gallant, and this is to put fairness to the Palestinian people, and I believe that this warrant will be composing a ground for more measures against the soldiers of the Israeli army that committed massacres against the Palestinian people and the crimes against humanity in Gaza Strip. It has been happening for 13 months now, a genocide war against the Palestinians, and it's even dating back 76 years ago with the crimes of Israel against the Palestinians. This resolution by the ICC is a victory.
Right. From your point of view, yes. From your point of view, could this development shift the international community's stance on the conflict?
For sure, this will constitute a legal tool for pursuing the Israeli occupation, and it will also be a legal tool and a political tool, a diplomatic tool to pressure the Israeli occupation to be committed to the international law and to the international humanitarian law and to implement the relative international resolutions. This step by the ICC is unprecedented in the history of the Arab-Israeli conflict, and this decision will constitute more force towards condemning the state of Israeli occupation and its crimes against the Palestinian people, and it will be a way for holding the war criminals accountable. And yesterday, this warrant came to be part of the way towards strengthening the international Court of Justice to speed up the litigations and the investigation to condemn the Israeli occupation for the genocide and the crimes against humanity against the Palestinian people. So this is an opportunity for the international community to give fairness to the Palestinian people and to stop the genocide against Palestinians.
Right, so from your point of view, Mr. Harfoush, how do you foresee the Israeli future relations globally and regionally in particular?
Internationally, I believe that the Israeli occupation will be more isolated internationally, because Israel violated the international law and violated the international legitimacy and committed crimes against humanity. So the international community should force the Israeli occupation to be committed to the international law and international humanitarian law, and the world states that are supporting the Israelis in committing these crimes should re-evaluate their connection with Israel and to be committed to the international law and to the Rome Agreement and the International Criminal Court to implement this warrant against Netanyahu and Gallant. And I believe that the international community has the duty and responsibility to play a real role and real pressure on the Israelis against the genocide happening. We have seen yesterday a huge amount of statements by the leaders of the Israeli army and officials in the Israeli occupation state who have described the warrant from the International Criminal Court as anti-Semitic and said that it is not ethical, and they said that this decision by the court would not be forcing Israel to anything, and the war criminals of Israel will not be committed uh, uh, to this warrant by the ICC. And Israel believes that it is above the law and above the international criminal law. So I believe that the warrant yesterday will not allow impunity anymore for the leaders of Israel, and international justice will take its course, and the warrant will be implemented against the ones who committed war crimes against the Palestinian people.
Right. Now to Lebanon. How do the Israeli occupation forces' recent attacks influence the broader regional response towards those actions?
The Israeli occupation and the Israeli occupation army they want to make the bill high for killing the Lebanese people in order to force the Lebanese people to agree to the Israeli terms. They wanted to pressure military-wise by committing these massacres against the Lebanese people because Netanyahu believes, and his right-wing government believe, that through making the bill so high and killing many Lebanese, this will allow the project of Netanyahu and his coalition government to reoccupy part of the Lebanese territories and submit the Lebanese people to the Netanyahu plan. But I believe this criminal act by Israel and the criminal bombardment of the Lebanese people and the Lebanese villages every day, I believe this will encourage the regional countries to play more role and to pressure more for stopping the genocide against the
Right.
Palestinian people and the Lebanese people. And this will also get the regional countries to to pay more efforts on the international level
Right.
to pressure United States, to pressure Israel to stop the genocide against the Palestinian people and against the Lebanese people. But still, the Israeli occupation is still continuing with committing the massacres against the people of Palestine and people of Lebanon without being committed at all to the international law and international humanitarian law.
Yes. Your point is very clear, and much more pressure needed to be applied. Thank you so much, Mr. Murad Harfoush, for sharing your deep analysis on the critical developments in Gaza and Lebanon. And now we shift to Washington, where Matt Gaetz's withdrawal has sparked a new wave of political debate within the Republican Party.
We can fix every single problem our country faces and lead America, and indeed the whole world. USA! This is a magnificent victory for the American people. Promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again.
As Newsweek aptly highlighted in the headlines, how Matt Gaetz derailed Trump and bitterly divided Republicans, the controversy surrounding Gaetz' nomination as Attorney General underscores deep fracture within the Republican Party. While some praised his intellect, others, like John Bolton, went as far as calling it the worst nomination for a cabinet secretary in American history. This episode has become a defining test of party loyalty versus accountability, marking the first major setback for President-elect Trump's incoming administration. And joining us is Dan Renee, a media strategy expert and political researcher. Good evening to you, sir.
So much for having me today.
Thank you so much. Mr. Dan, what were the key factors leading to Matt Gaetz' withdrawal from the pickup or from Trump's pickup as the Attorney General?
Right. Well, there's absolutely no doubt that Trump wanted to make appointments that were going to shock the system. All of his appointments so far are ones that show that he is dedicated to reforming the way that Washington works. And with Matt Gaetz' appointment, there was certainly a lot more hesitation on the part of many inside Washington and outside, for that matter, about this particular nomination. In large part due to the accusations that have been made against Matt Gaetz from parties and alleged affairs and things that he has been supposedly engaged in. Now, there is a Senate, or a House rather, ethics complaint that is going to be coming out, and it was going to be coming out. And the fact is that Gaetz resigned just in time for that report to be issued that would have otherwise been pretty damaging to him. So the appointment really helped avoid the news of this report, but also now it's a matter of, the fact is he wouldn't be confirmed anyway. So it's probably time to get someone else who can be confirmed and let the system still be shocked.
Mm-hmm. How has the Republican Party reacted to Gaetz' nomination and subsequent withdrawal?
Well, there are many Republicans who were just worried about the message that Gaetz' appointment was going to send. And again, the message was heard loud and clear that Trump wants to disrupt the system and status quo in Washington. However, the Gaetz appointment seemed to go a little bit too far. And once it became clear that Gaetz wasn't going to have the votes in the Senate to get that particular appointment made and confirmed, then he promptly has resigned or has withdrawn from consideration, allowing everyone to really maintain their political capital and not have to take a stake on risking their reputation on a Matt Gaetz.
Mm-hmm. From your point of view, how did the incident reveal the balance of loyalty and accountability within the Republican Party?
Well, there's absolutely zero doubt that Trump is appointing people that will prove that they have been loyal to him over the longer term. He is probably not looking very favorably upon some previous appointments, and those people that have been critical of Trump's appointments this time around were likely ones that he had appointed in the past, and they didn't quite see eye to eye on things. However, with Gaetz' withdrawal early on in the process, it gave everyone enough political capital so that way they didn't have to take on a larger fight and a larger distraction from the president's message to reform Washington. I think most Republicans agree that there needs to be some reforms in Washington, D.C., but it might be a little bit more difficult for them to agree on an appointment of Matt Gaetz. They can still achieve the same thing without having the personnel that would be causing consternation there.
Mm. What are Gaetz' prospects in the political arena in general, given the ongoing investigations against him?
Well, he's certainly a firebrand. He's certainly someone that has proven loyal to President Trump, and he's someone that is not going to go away quietly. He has maintained his innocence throughout these allegations that have arisen, and I think that we'll still hear him out there defending himself over the longer term. He's not going to be able to return to Congress. There are rules about resignations and then coming back. So there might be a possibility that Ron DeSantis considers him to be a senator from Florida, because we do have that open seat from the appointment of Marco Rubio. There are other options out there, but we have not heard the last of Matt Gaetz. He is certainly going to use the platform and the voice that he has to continue to support the president and continue to support change in Washington.
Right, Mr. Dan Renee, thank you so much for joining us and for offering definitely your analysis and your perspectives towards the political dynamics surrounding Matt Gaetz and the Republican Party. Thank you so much. And finally, turning to Eastern Europe, we explore the heightened tensions and strategic moves in Russia and Ukraine conflict. The Guardian has reported that Russia used an experimental intermediate range ballistic missile, or SHNIK, in a recent strike on Ukraine. The missile is believed to be nuclear capable, but was armed with a conventional warheads. Analysts note its introduction may impact NATO's defense strategies, with President Putin citing it as a response to Western missile deployments and the collapse of the INF Treaty in 2019. Right now, we're joined by Dr. Hussein Al-Khatib, Professor of Political Science, for his analysis. And Dr. Al-Khatib, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
Dr. Khatib, how significant are the recent missile strikes on the Dnipro city in the broader context of the conflict?
It is an escalation, actually. The Biden administration has made it more difficult for Trump. Maybe the thinking is that the Ukrainians will have a stronger position, but the response of the Russians was that we can escalate as well too, and we can inflict a bigger cost on the Ukrainians. At this point, Biden is still in the White House. He's going to be in the White House until January 20, and he's the one that is determining policy on the Ukraine, on the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. Trump said he can end it, and Trump has good relations with Putin. He respects Putin. Putin respects him. It doesn't mean that Trump will not be pushing for American interest. American interest is not that Russia takes over Ukraine, but there is no American interest in defeating Russia and in leading to problems inside Russia either.
Now, how do you view Russia's using the advanced missile systems in response to Ukraine's attacks or actions?
Russia is a power. I mean, it's not a global power. It's not a threat like China to U.S. interest and the challenge, but Russia is a capable power. Russia is number one with nuclear weapons. It has thousands of nuclear weapons, and Russia is strong military. I mean, it hasn't been able to achieve what it thought it can achieve in a short time in Ukraine. But it's a power to reckon with. I mean, they have the weapons, they have the manpower to sustain a conflict for many years. Now, the thinking of many people in the world who are negative about U.S. foreign policy is that the U.S. wants to fight Russia until the last Ukrainian. And while some people in the U.S. say that Zelensky wants to fight Russia until the last American dollar, and that's not going to continue. The thinking of Trump that the situation is not good for the Russians or for the Ukrainians, and he has a vision of having it end.
How have the ongoing frontline engagement impacted the strategic landscape of the conflict, particularly in areas like Pokrovsk and Kapinsk?
Yeah, this is not a conflict that will end in 1 month, 1 day, 1 year. This is a conflict that's open-ended, and the performance of both sides, you have ups and downs through the times that this conflict has been going on. Now, Trump says, when I was in the White House, this did not happen. Trump did not invade Ukraine. There was no war in Ukraine. He wants to put an end to the war. This is a war that can last for a long time. Russia can fight for years. Ukraine, with the support of the U.S. and the Europeans, can fight for years as well. A lot of people will die. And Trump sees no point in that. Yes, you have one side win at one time, make progress at one time, the other side, but this is not over. The Ukrainians are not done, and the Russians are not done. This can last for a long time, but Trump doesn't want that.
Briefly, in half a minute, please. Do you think there would be any kind of reducing the tension that exists in the meanwhile? Any
I'm
chance?
optimistic. I'm optimistic that yes, this will not continue. There will be a settlement. There will be some kind of settlement that that will be acceptable to the Russians and to the Ukrainians. Biden, in fact, hinted at this kind of settlement when, at the time, there was an
Yes.
expected invasion of Ukraine. Biden said, if it's only a little bit of encroachment, then that's not a big deal. So by the end of the day, there's going to be some Ukrainian territory that's given to Russia directly or indirectly.
Well, hopefully things and tension reduces. We greatly appreciate your time and expertise, Dr. Ihsan Al-Khatib. Thank you so much for joining us, and I guess that wraps up our episode today for In Focus. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.